celebrated her 120th birthday. She was built in 1901.
This is our little trip up to Iffley Lock from Oxford Folly Bridge and back.
They're all named after the river, places along the River Thames. Very quiet once we actually get going. We just have to play a bit of a game with the local traffic. It's a bit like boat Tetris at times. Here it's not so bad on this one. You can see when I was going out on the Reading before, there was a lady with a punt. And I said, if you stay where you are, I'll just be able to reverse and miss you. She carried on, and no matter where my stern went, she was punting and she was looking over her shoulder, and I was like, just go one side of the side. Turn.
I can see none. Look, we're actually on the river. We live by the river. That's a big one.
It is. What's it called? Madame Mim.
Madame Mim. Madame Mim.
Madame Mim.
That's a weird name. Oh, we're so close to the river. A bridgie.
Right, we're off. So at the
moment,
moment we're heading downstream, which means we're heading towards London. You step down to London. From London by boat here, it's doable. It'll take you 4.5 days to get there, but it is doable. When the colleges do their inter-racing regatta, the finish line is just here, where we are now on the right-hand side, roughly where that cone is. That's where the finish line is, so just bear that in mind for later on. The bit on the left, this is called Christchurch Meadows. It's the back garden for Christchurch College. It's open to the public if you want to go for a wander round. If you want to have a picnic there, feel free. But Christchurch has its very own flock of geese. And unlike all the other geese up and down the river that will come so close to you and then wait to be fed, these help themselves. They don't. We've seen them running with sandwiches in their beak, being chased by toddlers. One went the other way 2 days ago with a bag of Wotsits on his head. The kid chasing the Wotsits, but they literally, any picnic is fair game as far as they're concerned. On the other. So what they do is on the Monday morning, they randomly, each college enters sort of 7 crews. So they time them and then it's division 1 to 7. They then randomly get given a start position on day 1. And then when you race, your job is then to catch that boat in front. If you catch the boat in front, once the bow of your boat goes past the cocks of the boat that's been caught will put their hand up, we've been caught, they peel off to the side. Your cox then has a decision to make. Can I catch the next one, or is somebody going to catch me? 9 times out of 10, they'll take one, move to the side. And it's who's... If you're, say, boat 7 and you catch number 6, in the next race you start at number 6. And you've got to try and work your way up the ladder by Friday afternoon. And if you're at the top Friday afternoon, you're the champion and you get classed as head of the river, which is where the pub gets its name from. This is called Boathouse Island, very aptly named. And all the colleges have their boathouses here. They've got their college crests above the door. Some share, some have their own. They're all roughly the same. Downstairs, behind the garage doors are where the Rowan 8s and the scull boats are all stored. On the middle floor, the important things for the students, they've got the bar, the gym, the changing rooms, the showers. And then if you're posh enough to have a 3rd floor, that's the viewing balcony where other college members come along, get completely bladdered, cheer them on, wave scarves, you know, all that kind of malarkey. Now during this year's 8th competition, they banned students from entering the island. There's usually about 4,000 of them on the island, and that's not without the rowers, they're just there for the party. This year they banned them because of COVID, but what they found was the next island down, where all the trees and that are, they were all in there having parties, and then as the boats were coming up, we have to stop because the EA, the university paid the Environment Agency a lot of money to close this stretch of river. So when they say you've got to stop, you've got to stop. And we were watching the races, and as the races were coming up, all these scarves were hanging out the trees. Go on, Corpus Christi, and then the marshals were there with binoculars trying to spot them. Now, the oldest boathouse belongs to Christ Church, and that's the end one. They own the land, so they got first dibs. So they built that one. The newest one is on the right-hand side, and that belongs to University College. They had a lovely wooden boathouse here, and they asked to rebuild it. Oxford City Council said, no, it's not in keeping with the area. 2 weeks later, the wooden one burnt down. Rather suspiciously. So they then got given permission to build that. This is where the River Cherwell comes in, on the left-hand side here. That comes down from Banbury. Now the students in the university, they call this stretch of river from the bridge to the lock, they call it the Isis, the River Isis. So where we are here now, if someone was to phone you up and say, where are you? I'm on the river. Which one? You could say Thames, Isis, Cherwell. All three are correct at that point.
It's so far away.
All the way down on the trip, you'll see the luxury cruisers that are moored on the bank here. Some of them look as though they shouldn't be floating, let alone lived on, but they are. Some are on Airbnb, believe it or not. Although whether that comes with a free tetanus shot, I'm not sure, but it's the only time they do move is when the college do their regatta racing. They send each of the boat owners a lovely letter because they want all the boats gone, otherwise crews could catch an oar, and then it opens up a steward's inquiry. We wouldn't have been caught, however that boat was there, blah 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 blah. So they send them a lovely letter saying from Sunday 8 o'clock through till the last race on the Friday afternoon, we want you to go. We haven't collected a penny off you all year. However, during 8th week, it's £150 a night, and we will collect it. So at about 2 minutes to 8 on the Sunday night, this lot vanish, and it's usually one boat that works towing 6 that don't, and they just, some go downstream, some go upstream. But then, just as the last race is about to start, 7:15 on the Friday night, there's a big group of them at the lock and a big group of them at the bridge. When the last boat crosses the finish line, they come back, and there's a big fight as to who, because if you're in a poor position and you're first in the queue, you can get right up closer to the city. But we have had instances where ropes have been untied and boats kicked out and floated off because, and then the boat called the Oxford version. So when they're doing their regatta, when they get to finals day, the Oxford University selectors are out looking at every single crew. They pick 4 people for each position in the boat, including the cocks. They then move them down here. Up in the top part of there is a gymnasium that would put Cape Canaveral to shame. It's all computerised. They have 8 rowing machines that are linked. It can tell the coaches if they're travelling the same distance, whether the blades are hitting the water at the same time, the pitches of the blades, who's coming out early, who's going in early. And they whittle it down to 16 people and 2 coxes. 8 for the first boat and 8 for the ISIS boat or the reserve. They then send them off on their summer holidays. When they come back in September, they don't stay in Oxford anymore. They don't see Oxford again for 6 months. They move them down to Wallingford, down near Reading. and all their lectures, because obviously they're at Oxford University, they're studying, get beamed into the classrooms down there. They're out on the river every day, 5 in the morning till 9 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon till 8 o'clock at night. That's sun, rain, snow, whatever. So when you see the boat crew that have lost, and they've got that look on their face, they've been literally 8 hours a day on the river for 6 months. All that hard work, and they've lost. So that's why they look like they're ready to kill someone, because they, you know. But, so at the moment they've selected their 16 for next year. They've been packed off now on holiday until September. It's a canoe row. They usually strap 3 or 4 together. The other day we had a load of Downs syndrome children out. I went past at 11 in the morning and the girl canoed up to me and said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name's Dave." "Hello Dave, my name's Jenny." I said, "Hello Jenny, how are you?" "Yes, I'm very good." Up and down all day long, and then when I came back down at 6 o'clock, I could hear, "Dave, Dave!" There. She remembered my name. I'm like, "Jenny!" But they said a way of a time.
Hello.
Now the Riverside Centre, that's another boat 3 and so on, down this right hand bank. Now on the right hand side, where they got the starting positions for each of the boats, there's 2 independent adjudicators on each position. One will pass the cocks of the boat a big piece of string. The cocks must hang on to that string until the cannon goes bang. If you're in the boat behind, and obviously you're planning on catching him, you send one of your students up to literally watch the cocks. And until the bee of the bang, if she drops that string, false start, you automatically take their place without even having to brace. So in the field on the right here, we have a cannon. When it was actually going on and we were allowed to travel up and down in between the races, the lady said to me, I said, "They're going to fire the 5-minute cannon soon," because we could hear it on the radio in the ear roll. She said, "How will I know?" I said, "You'll know." And we got to about here and went, boom. Put her in the boat, she turned into the devil. The horns come out, but she was an absolute superstar. This pub is called the Isis Farmhouse. You can walk to it, you can go by boat, but you can't drive to it. There's no road access to the pub whatsoever. You go a bit slower here. Under the bridge on the right hand side you'll see a set of rollers. They look like a set of steps going up. If you're in a canoe or a punt or something small, especially in the summer, it can take you up to an hour to get through the lock here, depending if there's boats either side. So if you're in something small, you go under the bridge, pull over onto the side there, hop out your boat, pull the boat up the rollers, seesaw it, and there's rollers the other side, and roll it straight down and you're in. The canoeists around here see it as a challenge. Can they do it without getting out of the boat? And they come paddling like the clappers, and they go flying under the bridge, up the rollers. You see them lean forward, is he going to make it? And then it goes whoop, and whoosh, it goes down the other side. But we call them the suicidal canoeists, because if you're doing the Iffley trip on one of the big ones. Oh, that's a good one. On the non-tidal Thames, so right up at Lechlade, which is the first lock, there's 45 locks before you get to Teddington. That's where the Thames becomes tidal, and they let the moon take over. Because the locks are here for a couple of reasons. One is so that you can transport boats up and downhill, but they're mainly here to keep the water level constant and keep the water back. Otherwise, twice a day, the tide would go out in London, and this river would just go and vanish. And by the time it came in, and you think, oh, now I can drive my boat, it would start going straight back out again. So what have we got from here? From here to Abingdon, there's 3 locks. I'm going to count this now, that's a good question. Here to Abingdon's 3. 1, 2, 3. You've got Culham, Clifton Hamden, Days, what's after Days? Yeah, then into Benson, Cleve, Goring, Whitchurch, Maple Durham, Caversham, Sonning, Shiplake, Marsh, Hamilton, Hurley, Temple, Marlow, I reckon about 33, 34. So yeah, Edna and her crew, when they did the college racing, they started 10th. On the first race, she's got nothing to lose because there's nobody behind her, no one's going to catch her. They caught boat one and they timed it at 27.5 seconds. So they started the last race on the Friday, they were in position 3, but before they come down and do their turn onto position, she's bobbing in the river next to where we were, and she said, the reason I've held you back all week is because I don't think you can catch more than 2. And the guys were getting redder and redder and redder, and they just wanted to kill her, you know. And she said, can you catch boat 2? I think so. Can you catch 1? Not a chance in hell. On the B of the bang, woof! You know, she said, there's no point in catching 1 and quitting now. It's first past the finish line today wins the trophy. And on the B of the bang, they were gone. They caught boat 2 by the time they got to Donington Bridge. Caught boat 1 halfway around the bends, and they finished ahead, about 45 seconds ahead of anybody else.
Wow.
And they just went. And we followed the race up behind them. And we got there just in time for them to see normally they pull over to the side, get out, throw the cocks in. Not this time. The stroke guy, which is the guy next to the cocks, stood up in the boat. Boat's doing this, so they all dropped the oars into steady it. They picked her out of her seat. She said, no, my headset. And they went, woof, and in she went. But when they dragged her out the river, the guy from Oxford University was there and said, you are one of 4 coxes that is under consideration for Oxford Cambridge next year. Wow. She took them from 10th to 1st by holding them back, winding them up, and then letting them go at the right time. Mr. Tom on the Walgrave and his party. Him with the hat.
Oh no, even on this boat.
Yeah. You're going to have the latest picture for the Instagram with the duck face and the...
Oh yeah.
My daughter does it all the time. She's like, what's wrong with you? Nothing. Are you sure? Yards-ish. And then when the cannon goes boom, a lot of people go up around the corners to see the racing, and then they get like a boat come past. 2 or 3 minutes later, another one will come past, because once they get caught, they just pull over, stop. Once the last racing boat has actually gone past, they then just grow up at a casual speed, and even at a casual speed, they come past us like we're going backwards. And from here, on this boat, from the start line up to the finish line, we could do it in about 10 minutes, give or take. The Division 7 crews do it in about 8 or 9 minutes. In the evening, the 6 o'clock, 6:45 races, the Premier Women, Premier Men's, they row it in about 4.5 flat. And the guy that was with me on the 5 o'clock, he pulled over there and we were facing upstream, and he said, well, they ain't going to go fast, are they? I said, these are the Premier League. These are the quickest of the quickest. He said, yeah, but they're women. And I went, oh, okay, like this. On the B of the bang, he looked downriver, he looked back, the first 3 boats were already going around this corner. And he was like, where they gone? They're fast, they are bloody. I caught the Hampton port down, I went up on the Reading, then I came back with the Walgrave, and he was looking at the names and he was going, and for about 20 minutes he was just sat there wondering how the boat was changing names every 5 minutes. And I was like, no. the right again is that college barge, the Corpus Christi College barge. Now the guy that owns this one, he paid £70,000 for it. When they all got put up for sale, he bought it for £70,000, turned it into a house. The only thing that he's done is he's taken those railings around the top where your supporters would stand and do your cheering. He bought one. The Voco Hotel at Sanford-on-Thames, they bought one. The rest of them, they tried auctioning them, they tried selling them. Nobody was interested. They scrapped them, the lot, burnt them and scrapped them. The moment they did, somebody offered him $250,000 for his, because there's only two left. And he said, no. And I said it would have been lovely with hindsight if you just bought one and restored it somewhere. It'd be worth an absolute fortune now. But and then it throws it back into the river the other side of Iffley Lock. And they decided to turn one of them into a swimming thing, so they put concrete sides, ladders in. Everything was good, and then the city council put a lifeguard in there. His rules were no running, no bombing, no diving, no laughing, no enjoying yourself, nothing. So the kids usually go in there, get told off for something, and then they come running out here, jump in, and then they usually swim over to this side. Over here they can do whatever the hell they like. So they got the two little offshoots that they dug in to try and just take the water away. As we go past the university boathouse on the left here, if you look at the garage doors at the bottom, around the whole boat, and the water would come above here, but then it sort of shelves in. EA kind of say that they want 10 to 12 foot all the way minimum. Down in London it's like 70 foot deep, but then when the tide goes out that drops to sort of 40 foot. From where the Thames starts until it gets down to Teddington, the level drops 400 foot with all the locks added together. It's about a 400 foot drop. But the River Cherwell there that goes off, it eventually goes under Morgan Bridge where the botanical gardens and that are. Down there it's a couple of foot deep. It's ideal for punting down there, so if you fall in, you don't even get your waist wet, you know, it's quite nice. Which is what makes some of the antics of the Oxford students a bit crazy, because like when they've had their parties, or their regatta should I say, it's not a party, it's a regatta on the island here, they have a bottle bank on the end. If you can get a real small, real skinny guy as the cops, you can have bigger guys rowing, because there's a weight that you cannot go over. So this is the other second entrance to the Cherwell here. It's hidden away behind, roughly behind the bridge now, right in the distance there's a tower all on its own. You get a better view of it once you go past these trees. It looks like a big church tower stuck out over there. Get past these trees, we'll get a better view of it. We're past the picnic geese. Yeah, she's just over there. Big tower sticking up on its own. That is the tower of Magdalene or Magdalen College. And then on May Day morning, the choir go up to the top of the tower and they sing to welcome in the summer. And then Oxford's finest, usually well lubricated from the night before, throw themselves headfirst into the Cherwell off Morgan Bridge. Like I said, it's about that deep. So the Oxford Mail has a yearly thing. How many broken ankles, dislocated kneecaps, dislocated shoulder blades, dislocated everything. So one year they decided that they were going to ban it because too many people, one of them was a rower, went in headfirst, broke his neck, paralysed from there down. So career done. He was a doctor as well, or studying to be a doctor. So they said, that's it, no more. We're going to put security either side of the bridge. You're not going to be able to jump off Morecambe Bridge. They came down to Folly Bridge. Not a problem, it's like 10, 12 foot deep. But what they failed to do was look before they jumped. And one of them jumped just as a steel narrowboat came out and went smack, killed him outright. So they then said that is the lesser of two evils when they reopened Morecambe Bridge now on May Day morning. But they know, they did one year contemplate putting, you know, like the bouncy castle things in the river, but then they were bouncing and landing in the trees and academically brilliant. Common sense, zip, none whatsoever. Yeah, exactly. And then up here is the back again of Christ Church College and the back of Merton College here. Again, that is open to the public if anyone wants to go in and have a look around. And a quick look at the time. Do we have time to do a lap of the island as well? Yes, go for it. Slightly ahead of schedule, so we'll go around the island. Now with the island on this side, and predominantly a lot of this island here was once all owned by Salters. They owned virtually everything here. Where this new build flats are here on the left hand side, that is where our fiberglass shops used to be, and workshops where they used to build the rowing eights. At one point they were knocking 2 rowing eights out a week, and that's where all of our sort of fiberglass shops was. Down at the slipway where we've just gone by, they would build the steel hulls for the passenger boats. Once they got the hull, they would tow it up the river and take it to where the head of the river pub is. That was our sort of fitting shops. So over there they'd have the side structure, the saloon added, and then as much as they could do before they then tow it through the bridge. And then once we go through the bridge where the new flats are on the right hand side, that's where all the decks and stuff were put on. They then tow it round the corner where the crane is, drop the boiler in, the steam engine. Further round it would get its seats, its canopies, etc, etc. So by the time the hull had done a complete lap of the island, it popped up looking like that. Load of passengers on, Kingston's 3 days that way, enjoy yourself, away you go. And they were knocking one of the passenger boats out, one a year. One of those was coming out.
Hello, dog.
There's a photo of a lifeboat being launched from where the head of the river was, because Salters built the lifeboats for the Titanic. And there's one in a museum somewhere, and with a letter from the White Star Line to Salters saying, lifeboats are brilliant, but we don't need that many, can we cancel the order? And so Salters had already pre-built these lifeboats that were meant to go on the Titanic. They cancelled the order, and then of course it sank. And now the lifeboats are in, I think it's in London, they're in a museum somewhere. They said the lifeboats worked, there just weren't enough of them. It's a bit crazy. Little private house here on the left, which is always very nice. Now, the island here, we have a few resident geese, but there's a heron that lives around on the island here. Sometimes we see him, sometimes we don't. But what we do normally see is the unexpected. We come around the corner here, or we get used to. The chap passed away now, but that's the crane that used to lift these steam engines and the boilers in. It's been there for years, and Salters finally said, we want to turn this into flats, we want to take the crane down. Oxford City Council said, you can't. It's now a heritage thing, so we've got these flats there and a crane. So, I'm wondering, is that there? There's Harry, it's just there. He lives on the island. You see him in various places. A chap come on once, he said, heron is my favourite bird. Can you show me a heron? I said, I know where one lives. Now whether you'll see him isn't another matter. And as we come round the corner, he was sat on the landing stage just here. So we were literally a foot away from him. And he emptied, with the camera. The Folly is here. Now the guy that used to own this house was a bit of an eccentric. And every time we come round the corner, he'd have something random. on here. We come round once and he had a big stuffed tiger, absolutely huge. And we were like, whoa. The following day you're saying, oh, I can show the passengers the stuffed tiger. Came round, tiger's gone, but in its place, stuffed giraffe, huge. Okay, we had like different models of everything, and eventually they came up round the corner and he had a full-sized naked model of Marilyn Monroe leant up against the wall. And I laughed at that one, but one of the Oxford City councillors who's coming across on the bus saw it, rung him up and said, take that down. You can't have that, take it down. By the time he'd answered the phone and gone to take it down, the students had nicked it. And they were punting down there with her, and she appeared on Boathouse Island. And so she'd have Christchurch College's scarf on. St Edmunds would come say, we ain't having that. That goes off and their colours go on. She was there for about 3 or 4 months. Poor Marilyn, she didn't have taken it, took a bit of abuse. But where the bridge is here, this is where the old Ford used to be, where they used to bring the oxes from the fields there into the markets in the centre. Originally it was called Oxon Ford, and they shortened it Oxford. And that's where the name comes from. That's where the Oxford used to be. Again, this is all, now it's flats, etc., etc., but this used to be like our offices with accounts departments and the bosses, and the bosses used to have the little office right on the end because they used to sit and watch the boats coming in and out. That's why I like working down in Marlow and Henley away from here, because yeah, there's too many eyes up here. And we are back where we started.